Perubatan Malaysia and Anor, 2020, 7 MLJ 549 and Peter Chong and Anor vs Khatija BTMD Ibrahim and Anor, 2018, 10 MLJ 735 are significant authorities in Malaysian law as they illustrate the court's approach in interpreting statutes, applying established legal principles, and upholding the doctrine of stare decisis. The former case concerns the regulatory powers of the Malaysian Medical Council in overseeing and approving medical education programs, emphasizing the importance of statutory compliance and the protection of public interest. It reflects the judiciary's deference to statutory bodies acting within their legal mandate. In contrast, the latter case involves the enforcement of contractual and proprietary rights between private parties, highlighting the binding nature of agreements and the court's role in ensuring certainty and fairness in contractual dealings. When read together, these cases demonstrate how Malaysian courts balance regulatory authority and private rights, apply binding precedents, and ensure consistency, legality, and justice within the legal system.
In Malaysia, the application of English common law and equity is not automatic. It is carefully controlled by statute and shaped by local conditions. In this video, we examine two landmark cases that clearly illustrate this principle. The first involves administrative law and professional regulation. The second concerns land law and registered ownership. Together, these cases show when English common law and equity may be applied in Malaysia, and when they must give way to statutory law. Part 1. Administrative Law and Common Law Torts. Asia Pacific Higher Learning SDN-BHD v Majlis Perubatan Malaysia.
Asia Pacific Higher Learning SDN-BHD was the operator of Lincoln University College, which offered medical degree programs. In Malaysia, such programs must be accredited by the Majlis Perubatan Malaysia, or MMC, to be officially recognized. The plaintiff submitted applications for accreditation in accordance with the Malaysian Qualifications Agency Act 2007 and the published accreditation guidelines issued by the MMC.
The evaluation was conducted by a joint technical committee, chaired by the second defendant. During the process, additional conditions were imposed that were not stated in the guidelines. These included requiring physical attendance of academic staff, and refusing to assess certain converted programs without legal justification. As a result, the applications were delayed or rejected, causing financial loss, disruption to academic operations, and reputational damage. The plaintiff then initiated legal proceedings. The key issue was whether English common law and equity could be applied under Section 3 of the Civil Law Act 1956. This provision allows English common law to be applied where there is a lacuna in Malaysian law, and where it is suitable to local conditions. The plaintiff relied on common law principles of negligence, breach of statutory duty, and misfeasance in public office. These principles were applied because Malaysian statutes did not fully provide remedies for wrongful administrative conduct. The court held that the MMC was exercising public functions. The loss was foreseeable, and no statute excluded common law remedies. Therefore, English common law principles were applicable, but only after being adapted to the Malaysian context. The court found the defendants liable for negligence and breach of statutory duty. Statutory immunity was rejected because it applies only to acts done in good faith. However, the court also emphasized judicial restraint. As a professional regulatory body, the MMC possesses specialized expertise. Courts will not substitute their judgment unless there is illegality, irrationality, or procedural impropriety. This case confirms that English common law remains relevant in Malaysia, but its application depends on statutory compatibility and local circumstances.
Case 2. Peter Chong and Anor vs. Khatijah bt Md Ibrahim and Anor, 201 Case 8. 10 MLJ 735. Land law and limits of equity under Section 6, Civil Law Act 1956. Case overview. This case examines the limits of English common law and equity in Malaysian land law. It highlights the torrens system and the doctrine of stare decisis. Brief facts of the case. The land in dispute was conveyed in 1940 to Muhammad Ibrahim for life, and thereafter to his children as joint tenants. Eventually, Aisha and Khatijah became the surviving joint tenants and registered proprietors. In 1990, Aisha alone entered into sale and purchase agreements with the plaintiffs for 2 portions of the land. The full purchase price was paid, and possession was given, but no subdivision or registration took place. When Aisha later died without severing the joint tenancy, Khatijah became the sole registered proprietor by right of survivorship. The plaintiffs relied on English common law principles of severance of joint tenancy and equitable interests. However, Section 6 of the Civil Law Act 1956 strictly limits the application of English land law. The Federal Court held that Malaysian land law is comprehensively governed by the National Land Code under the torrens system, which prioritizes registration. There was no lacuna in the law. Equity could not override statutory provisions, and unregistered interests could not defeat registered title. English common law therefore had no application where it conflicted with Malaysian land legislation. The court dismissed the claim for specific performance. Aisha had no authority to sell any portion of the land without severance and consent. The case strongly reaffirmed the doctrine of stare decisis. Decisions of the Federal Court are binding on all lower courts, ensuring certainty and consistency in the law. While the plaintiffs failed in their proprietary claim, they were entitled to restitution under Section 66 of the Contracts Act 1950 against Aisha's estate. These two cases demonstrate a clear principle. English common law and equity apply in Malaysia only where permitted by statute and local conditions. Administrative law allows greater flexibility, while land law demands strict compliance with statutory registration. Together, these decisions reinforce accountability, certainty, and respect for Malaysia's legal framework. As conclusion, in Asia-Pacific Higher Learning SDN-BHD versus Majlis Perubatan Malaysia and Anor, 2020, 7 MLJ 549, the court affirmed the importance of statutory interpretation and regulatory authority in protecting public interest, particularly in the field of medical education. The case highlights that regulatory bodies must act within their legal powers, and the decisions will be upheld when made in accordance with the law. Meanwhile, Peter Chong and Anor versus Khatijah BTMD Ibrahim and Anor, 2018, 10 MLJ 735 reinforces the binding nature of contractual obligations and the application of established legal principles in resolving private disputes. The court's decision demonstrates the role of stare decisis in ensuring consistency and certainty in the law. Overall, both cases emphasize the importance of adherence to statutory provisions and judicial precedents in maintaining fairness, consistency, and integrity within the Malaysian legal system.